we were able, as a people or country, able to centralize the focus of all those different individual conflicts on one enemy in order to be strong enough in order to go out and fight a war. Because every facet of the people in America had a different problem.
So who were you, and what conflict did you notice, or who did you?
Who was I? I was Count Stahlberg, a German brigadier general at Camp Clinton. And at Camp Clinton, even though it was barbed wire around the place, I was in a cage, as they call it, metal fence enclosure. I lived pretty good. I had a movie theater, I had golf, I had soccer, I had horses.
You were a German prisoner of war?
Listen, German prisoner of war. I could go to the dentist anytime I want to, go to the doctor. They had brought in, they'd gotten some German recipes, and we had cooks, and they had taught the cooks how to cook these meals just like German people cook the meals. And I was living pretty good. And being as I was an officer, they couldn't force me to go out and really do any work. But some of the lesser soldiers that were captured with me, they had to go out and do some work. And I found it quite interesting that they were going out working off the camp, and they were making 80 cents a day.
And this was in Clinton, Mississippi?
This is in Clinton, Camp Clinton. But what made it even more interesting to me was the fact that outside the gates, outside the fence, were fields. In these fields, I saw black people that were living kind of shabby like. And I talked to a woman inside the kitchen, and she was making $3.75 a week. So in this country that's considered the land of the free and the home of the brave and all these different things, they would treat a prisoner of war better than an American citizen. Yet they point the finger at me and my people for how we were treating the Jews. That is
hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy, because they were not treating the citizens of this country with any respect. How can you treat a prisoner of war, somebody that was trying to kill your citizens, better than you would one of your own? And then expect that citizen's brother to go out and try to fight so that he can come back home and still get treated like a second-class citizen when he gets home.
So, ma'am, who are you?
Well, I was actually Eudora Welty, but I was going to get back to your original question on whether or not the exercise actually, worked or how we could benefit in our classroom. I like the mix and mingle and meet and greet. I like the idea of it with the characters and all. I think as far as the reflection part of it, or maybe even in maybe a small group discussion before we reflect individually, if we could connect the person and where they are in the world to what's actually going on in the time period. If it's during the Depression, or if it's after, or if it's during the World War II or something like that, make that direct connection so that you're not lost in the idea of this, especially with younger students. They would enjoy an activity like this and probably do well with it, but it needs to directly, connect with the curriculum too.
Right. Can we come back to that issue in a minute about how to embed it in a classroom setting and whether it should be the lead activity or the culminating activity and that kind of thing? But that's a really good point. We'll come back to that. Yes, ma'am.
We've done World War II. We're trying to rush through this U.S. history. I'm going to do this for the 60s and Vietnam War. And this is excellent for me because I stay a nervous wreck about pop-in observations, and those kids like to yak, and they'll be yakking about something that needs to be yacked about. They'll get into it. They like to walk around the room. And so now I don't have to worry about Terrell getting up and walking around the room, because that's what he is supposed to do.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be fun.
Thank you again. And we're going to put that in.
Maybe
we should do that first before we get to the content stuff. Because I guess I wanted to see whether this allowed you to go deeper in some content around the Depression or World War II before we got to its application in the classroom. So can you say more about that, and then I see you, Casey?
Okay. Yeah, it does, because you're giving these little autobiographical. Students don't like to read. So you have one student that read this, and that student's walking around telling another student about this, his character. The other student's telling him about his or her character. And it's like you're reading all these different things, but doing it in a class period, and you're not plopping reading all this in front of them to read. They don't like to read all the time or to hear you all the time. Now they can hear each other and they will be going into it. It makes it personal for them. That's why I like this. It's a personal thing.
Yes, sir.
And it's manageable. I mean, it's not, you gave them like 3 worksheets, learn about all these people, so they're like, get it. This, not intimidating. And then also, like for me, okay, I've got William O. Douglas, I was a hobo. But it never told me, was he a hobo as a young man, then he got his law degree and became a Supreme Court justice, or was his concern for the migrant poor catalyst for him hopping the rails and being a hobo? And not knowing that, kind of being a little embarrassed that I don't know it, I was like, well, I better Google that and find out. So it actually motivated me to do some research. So I think it would cause the kids to delve deeper into the content.
Okay, all right. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I had it's a Treasury Secretary, a multi-millionaire, and
Andrew Mellon?
Andrew Mellon, yeah, and it made me think about how this person really, when you hear all the problems that the other characters had, this person is totally separate from their lives. And made me think, current times, what it must be like for our legislatures. I mean, here they are, 60% of them millionaires, and they really relate to the problems that people have.
Who were some of the people that you met, and what was striking to you about?
I'm trying to remember exactly who. There's various.
And who are you?
I'm an old, sick person that can't work in Lumberton, Mississippi, and I need help from my representative.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow, this was very interesting. I read over it on Francis Perkins, the U.S. Secretary of Labor, and the law says that some people may view me as a hypocrite. But then I wonder, am I a hypocrite? Because I'm supposed to be advocating for stricter safety laws and 8-hour work days, and I'm a woman. But instead of me working on behalf of women receiving Social Security, being treated equally in the workplace, they're telling me to delay this for a little bit. So how am I able to advocate for these things, but I can't really do it for a living?
Yes, ma'am.
After meeting her, Lucy, I was able to see where her job being a lawyer and her friend Elliot Stoker, they made a way for me to get a job with President Roosevelt administration. They paved the way for women. They were from Mississippi, but however, they paved the way for women to get be appointed to government jobs.
So even
And my
though
name
Frances
is Mary
Perkins
Boone.
felt hamstrung in her ability to create a job for a person like you, there was a local Mississippi movement who was able to help her find a
Get
job.
the job for, to be appointed to a government job. Mary Boone, that was very.
Any other surprising interactions or surprises about your own character? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Emma Tinigaka,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a Texas, a girl from Texas, from San Antonio, and I work in the cotton factories there. There's 400 cotton factories there. Work probably 6 months out of the year. And we pick the meat out of nuts. There's a lot of us that have got tuberculosis from the hazards. We're working 70 hours a week, 30 cents a day. That's $2.10 a week. And so 12,000 of us go on strike, and they finally raised our minimum wage up to 25 cents an hour. Now they're replacing us with machinery. Now I spoke to Frances Perkins and asked her, what can we do? We need jobs that are going to help us. Our families are migrant pretty much because we go from the gardens in the fall and reap the harvest. But that cotton factory job is our winter job that we do all winter to pick the meat out of the nuts. What are we going to do now? Be replaced by machinery. I also spoke to the Dennis Chavez, the New Mexico senator, who is a Mexican national, American, like myself. But they've got to do something to help us get permanent employment that we can raise our families. We want the American dream too.
Did you meet any other labor union folks around?
I met just Francis Perkins and it is, Chavez. I met Jamie and Adams, and I met quite a few people. It's just that are the ones that I thought would help me the most would be those two.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm a senator and a governor of Mississippi.